He leaned over her, voice rising. "Move. My son and I need these seats." But before she could respond, the flight attendant stepped between them. "Sir, one more step and you're off this flight." The whole cabin froze. Phones were recording. What happened next shocked everyone on board. But let's start from the beginning.
Think racism is bad? Try loving someone 51 years older than you. She's 70. He's 19. They weren't breaking the law, but their town treated them like criminals. She lost her job. He lost his college spot. Then her daughter did something unthinkable. You won't believe what happened next. Watch the full story now on our new channel. Age Gap Files. Click the card. What she was hiding will blow your mind.
It was just another crowded afternoon flight from Denver to Charlotte. The usual buzz of rolling suitcases, overhead bin struggles, and polite small talk filled the cabin as passengers trickled in. At seat 14A, Denise Turner, 34, black, composed, and sharply dressed in a navy blue blazer, settled in with her tablet. She was a civil rights attorney on her way to speak at a conference, focused on reviewing her notes, earbuds in, blocking out the world. Then came the shift in the air. A white man in his mid-40s, tall with thinning hair and an attitude twice his size, barged down the aisle like he owned it. His teenage son trailed behind, slouching under a heavy backpack. Both wore matching maroon high school football hoodies. The man's expression darkened the moment he spotted Denise in 14A. "You're in our seat," he snapped, without a greeting. Denise looked up, confused. "Sorry?" she asked, pulling out one earbud. "I booked these seats for me and my son," he said, gesturing at the empty middle seat beside her. "You must have been moved up by mistake. Can you go back?" She blinked. "This is 14A. It's printed right here." She showed her boarding pass. His nostrils flared. "Come on, really? I shouldn't be separated from my kid. You can just move. It's not a big deal." The tone wasn't polite. It was dismissive, condescending, like he expected her to fold, to apologize, to disappear. A couple across the aisle glanced over. A flight attendant a few rows down paused mid-welcome. Denise didn't budge. "I'm sorry, but I'm not moving." He gave a short, forced laugh. "Unbelievable. You people are always making it harder than it has to be." Her jaw clenched. "You people." The words landed like a slap, and suddenly her law degree, her years in courtrooms, her calm, all of it was tested. That was the moment everything changed. The air felt tighter. The eyes on them multiplied, and the confrontation was far from over. What neither of them knew was that someone nearby had already started recording, and what happened next would turn a routine flight into a viral moment the internet wouldn't forget. The entitled man's irritation escalated quickly. He wasn't used to being told no, especially not by a woman, and certainly not by a black woman who refused to back down. His jaw clenched, and without asking permission, he waved over the nearest flight attendant. "Miss," he barked, "we've got a situation here." The attendant, Rachel, late 20s, calm, red-haired with sharp eyes trained from years of dealing with airport drama, walked over with a practiced smile. "What seems to be the problem, sir?" "She's in our seats," he said, gesturing toward Denise with an open palm like presenting evidence in court. "I paid for these. I booked them together for me and my son." Rachel extended her hand. "Can I see your boarding passes, please?" With a huff, he yanked the crumpled tickets from his pocket and handed them over. Rachel scanned them, then glanced up, confused. "Sir, these are seats 16B and 16C. You're assigned to the back, 2 rows behind this one." He blinked, as if the very idea was offensive. "Yeah, but we're together. I don't want to be separated from my son. I'm asking her to move so we can sit as a family. It's not a huge request." Rachel turned to Denise, whose hands were calmly folded on her lap. "Ma'am, you're in the correct seat?" Denise nodded, already exhausted by the conversation. 14A. It's mine. The man stepped forward slightly, voice lowering but growing more aggressive. I'm just trying to travel with my son. Why is that so hard to understand? She could fix this in 2 seconds. A murmur rippled through the nearby rows. A woman in 15C whispered, "He's out of line." Another man quietly reached for his phone, hitting record. Rachel's expression shifted. The smile faded. "Sir, I understand your frustration, but you're asking someone to give up their seat when you're not entitled to it. That's not how this works." He stared at her, then back at Denise. "This is ridiculous. If I looked different, I bet you'd move in a heartbeat." That was it. A line crossed. A silent gasp moved through the cabin. Denise's face remained composed, but her eyes burned. The energy had changed again. What started as entitlement was now openly offensive. The cabin was no longer just watching. They were judging, and they were waiting to see what would happen next. The man leaned in closer, his voice dropping into a condescending growl. "Are you seriously going to make a scene over this? Just move. Be reasonable." Rachel, the flight attendant, immediately stepped between them, her posture shifting from service-oriented to authoritative. "Sir," she said, her voice now sharp and unwavering, "you need to take a step back. Right now." The man froze for a second, shocked that he was being challenged. He glanced around and realized half the cabin was watching and recording. "Are you kidding me?" He scoffed. "I'm the one being reasonable here. She's the one causing a scene." Denise slowly stood, not out of fear, but out of principle. Her calm was gone, replaced with steel. The quiet strength she'd honed in courtrooms and community meetings radiated from her. "I didn't cause this," she said evenly, her voice cutting through the murmurs around them. "I boarded this plane, sat in the seat I was assigned, and minded my business. You assumed I didn't belong here, and that you could pressure me out of a seat I paid for. Because what? I'm alone? I'm a woman? I'm black?" A silence swept through the cabin. No one dared interrupt. "This isn't about a seat," she continued. "It's about how you look at people like me, and how you expect us to shrink. I won't." The man opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Rachel took a step forward, shielding Denise slightly. "Sir, I'm asking you for the last time. Please return to your assigned seats or I will notify the captain. If you refuse, airport security will escort you off this plane." From row 17, a man muttered, "That's what entitlement looks like." In row 13, a woman clapped once. Another followed. The tension had flipped. The crowd wasn't on his side, and he could feel it. Red-faced, the man gritted his teeth. He grabbed his son's arm, who looked utterly humiliated, and hissed, "Let's go." As they walked to the back, the boy whispered, "Why couldn't you just let it go, Dad?" But it wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. Because just minutes later, the pilot made an announcement that would shake the entire plane. As Denise sat back down, Rachel leaned in and whispered, "Thank you for standing your ground. Some people need to see what that looks like." A few minutes later, just before takeoff, the pilot made an unexpected announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, please note, disruptive passengers delaying our departure will be reported to federal authorities. Thank you for your patience." The entitled father, now beet red, didn't say a word the entire flight. His son didn't meet anyone's gaze. And Denise? She returned to her brief. But as she read, she felt the quiet hum of vindication. Not just for herself, but for every woman of color who had ever been told to move back in one form or another. Justice doesn't always come with a gavel. Sometimes it walks down the aisle in a flight attendant's uniform and takes a stand at 30,000 feet.